Good morning. Thank you for spending a bit of your weekend with me on your mat. So as always, before you get started, just kind of look around, make sure that you've got plenty of space to move this morning without running into anything or anyone. And then just find a comfortable spot to begin. So I'm gonna sit on a block in Sukhasana. You could come down onto your back, you could come into a child's pose. Just find any spot where you can find a bit of ease. Maybe you close your eyes or soften your gaze. You can wiggle the fingers and the toes. Maybe either turn the head from side to side if you're sitting up, or rock it from side to side if you're on your back or in child's pose. And then just take a few moments here to turn inward, checking in with your mental and emotional state this morning. This little check-in helps us to better shape our practice in service of these feelings. And then start to turn your attention to your breath, not changing it, just noticing the rise and the fall. Then maybe on your next exhale, you intentionally release all of the air through your lips with a sigh or a sound, followed by welcoming a deep inhale through the nose and maybe a little pause at the top. And then again, let that air go through your lips. Let's do this about 5 more times. So 5 more deep inhales, 5 more deep exhales. Really thinking about this idea of breathing in 360 degrees, allowing your breath to take up a lot of space this morning. And then just a little reminder that you are very much in charge of what happens on your mat this morning, not me. So take what you need, leaving the rest, feeling free to move or not move in any way that brings you joy. And as you start to wind down those 5 rounds of inhales and 5 rounds of exhales, make a decision about what you want your breath to look like this morning. So you can stick with this circular inhale through the nose, exhale through the lips. Or if you want something a little bit more energizing, maybe you turn to an Ujjayi breath, inhaling and exhaling through the nose with a slight constriction in the back of your throat. So your breath makes an ocean sound. This can help you build heat and concentration as you begin to move. When you feel grounded in your breath, let's all meet up in a Sukhasana or easy seat, crisscross applesauce. We'll have that right shin in front. Really feel the sit bones ground down into the mat. So for me, I have to scooch around a little bit, get the biscuits out of the way. Big reach, arms overhead. And then let's side bend over to the right, letting that left arm come overhead. Sometimes it's nice to think about twisting the chest up toward the ceiling. You can drop that right ear towards your right shoulder, opening through the side of the neck. Come back through center with the arms. Let's take this to the left with a twist, right hand on the outer edge of that left thigh. Pulling the belly in to twist, using the inhales to lengthen through the crown of the head. About 3 more big rounds of breath here. Come back through center with the torso, left hand by your left hip. Let's extend that right leg long. Lift the hips, lean back, stargazer pose, opening through the inner thighs and the right side body. 2 more breaths here. Lowering with that second exhale. Let's turn the torso so we're facing the right foot, arms overhead, and then fold over that right leg. It doesn't have to be a lot, and you certainly don't have to touch your toes. Just think about keeping a nice long spine. Two more big rounds of breath here. Rising up, gathering the knees into the chest. We're coming into a boat pose, so you could keep your hands on the mat for support. You could bring the hands behind the hamstrings for additional support. You could reach your arms forward. You could extend the legs. One more breath here. Then cross at the shins, this time left shin in front, coming back to your Sukhasana or easy seat. Arms swim overhead so we can side bend over to the left. Right arm comes overhead. Again, maybe you open your chest up toward the ceiling. Maybe you let the left ear fall to the left shoulder. Come back through center with the arms and chest, and then let's twist to the right. Left hand on the outer edge of your right thigh. We've got a little visitor. Two more big breaths here. Coming back through center, extending the left leg, right hand by your right hip. Swim that left arm overhead as you lift your hips, leaning back, stargazer pose. Lowering the hips, turning the torso toward that left leg, arms swim overhead, then fold over your left leg any amount that feels good. Two more breaths here. Rising up after that second round of breath, let's take the legs out into a V or a straddle. This doesn't have to be a very wide V. Arms come overhead and then fold forward. If you have blocks and your legs or hips are kind of tight, you can bring 1 or 2 blocks in front of you, resting your forearms on the blocks, letting your head relax between the arms. Or you could set the block up on the tall setting, resting your forehead. Take about 3 more rounds of breath here. Rising up after your third round of breath, and make your way to a tabletop pose. Shoulders stack over wrists, hips over knees. Start to flow through some cat and cow shapes. So drop the belly, lift the gaze for cow, and then reverse that, arching the spine for cat. You could also sway your hips from side to side or even make some circles here. About 5 more rounds of breath to warm up your spine. Meeting in a child's pose. After that 5th round of breath, hips towards your heels. Stretch the arms out long in front of you. Using an inhale, pull yourself back up to your table. You're going to shift your shoulders over your wrists, slowly lower all the way to your belly, lifting your chest, coming into a cobra when you land. Lower to your belly, breath to table, then breath takes the hips towards your heels, child's pose. Inhale pulls you back to your table, shift your shoulders, lower to your belly, lifting your chest, coming into a cobra. Release, table to child's pose. One more round, breath pulls you forward, shift those shoulders over the wrists, dive down to your belly, lifting your chest into your cobra. Release, press it back, child's pose. From your child's pose, let's come back forward into the table, tuck the toes, lift the knees and hips up and back, coming to your first downward facing dog. Pedaling out the heels, shaking the head yes and no. Remember, you can always use table as your home base if downward facing dog isn't feeling great in your body this morning. And let's tiptoe the toes to meet the hands. Forward fold, top of the mat. Deep bend in the knees. Relaxing the head, letting the neck be nice and long. Maybe you sway your torso from side to side or clasp opposite elbows here. Release the elbows, let the hands come back down to the mat or blocks. Your next inhale lifts you halfway. Nice long spine, strong core. Exhale to refold. Inhale, big reach to the top, arms overhead, grabbing that left wrist with your right hand, side bending over to the right. Through center, switching out that grip, side bend over to the left. Back through center, swan dive down, forward fold. Let's do that again. Inhale lifts you halfway. Exhale, refold. Inhale, big reach to the top, this time grabbing the right wrist with the left hand first, side bending over to the right or left. Through center, switch out the grip, grabbing the left wrist, side bending over to the right, for real this time. Back through center, swan dive down, forward fold. Inhale lifts you halfway. Exhale, refold. Inhale, big reach to the top, arms overhead, extended mountain. Hands come into heart space. Big reach, arms overhead. Swan dive down, forward fold. Inhale lifts you halfway. Exhale, refold, this time planting your hands, stepping back to a high plank or releasing the knees to the earth for a supported plank. Lower halfway for chaturanga or all the way to your belly. Then come over the tops of your feet for an upward facing dog or cobra. Then we'll take it up and back, downward facing dog. 2 breaths here. After that second round of breath, bend your knees, soften your elbows, lift your gaze, take a big step or jump, feet to hands, forward fold. Inhale lifts you halfway. Exhale to refold. Inhale, big reach to the top, extended mountain. Exhale, hands come into heart space. Inhale, big reach. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, lifts you halfway. Exhale, refold, planting the hands, stepping back, vinyasa or straight to downward facing dog. Settling into downward facing dog for 3 rounds of breath. After that 3rd round of breath, lift your right heel up and back. Then take your right knee towards your right tricep. Then right ankle to left thigh, shifting your hips back into a downward facing dog with figure 4 legs. We're gonna shift forward, coming into a half pigeon. So you've got options here. You could come into half pigeon if this feels okay for you. If this is a little much right now, you can shift your weight onto your right hip, bringing both knees into 90 degrees for a 90-90 half pigeon. We'll be here for about 5 rounds of breath, so find something that works for you. If you took a fold, let's go ahead and rise back up. Shift your weight onto the right hip, swing that left leg around. The sole of the left foot is at the top of the mat. Then we're gonna twist to the left. Maybe you bring that right elbow on the outer edge of your left thigh, sitting up nice and tall. Let's unwind, bringing the torso toward the front of the mat. Extend your left leg out long like we did at the beginning of class. Right hand by your right hip, lift your hips, lean back, stargazer pose. So trust this transition and just try to have fun with it. You're gonna lower your hips about halfway to give yourself the space and stability to step that left foot back to the top of your mat. Right hand comes down, right toes go back, left arm overhead, revolved low lunge. Stay light in that right hand to give you space to cartwheel open, coming through a 5-pointed star, bending into your right knee, taking a side lunge or Skandasana. Get active in your left leg to take you to the top of the mat, warrior 2, left foot in front. Flip your left palm, reverse your warrior, leaning back. Coming through center, finding a side angle pose. So in side angle, you have options, and the goal is to have a nice long side body. So coming all the way down to the mat might not be in service of that. You might need to bring that left forearm to your thigh so you can open your chest. Cartwheel both hands down to the mat, take a vinyasa. We'll meet in downward facing dog. Two breaths in your downward facing dog. After that second round of breath, left heel up and back, left knee towards your left tricep, then left ankle on top of your right thigh, figure 4, downward facing dog. Shifting forward, finding a half pigeon. Again, about 4 to 6 rounds of breath here. So come down, find a spot where you can settle in. Rising up, if you took a fold, shifting the weight onto the left hip so the right leg can swing around, sole of the right foot at the top of the mat, then twist to the right, finding an easy twist here. Unwind, extend the right leg, left hand by your left hip, lift the hips, lean back, stargazer pose. Lowering the hips halfway to unweight that right foot so you can step it back to the top of the mat. Left hand plants, left toe step back, right arm overhead, revolved low lunge. Then light in that left hand to cartwheel open to the left, bending into your left knee. Skandasana or low side lunge. Getting active in that right leg so you can stand up, come through center, find your warrior two. Flipping your front palm, reaching forward, leaning back, reversing your warrior. Come through center, side angle pose. Cartwheeling both hands down to the mat, vinyasa, or straight to downward facing dog. Two breaths in your downward facing dog. Lifting the right heel up and back. Step that right foot to the top of the mat. Load that foot so you can rise up to one leg mountain, left knee into your chest. Then we'll take a twist, right hand in front, left hand in back. Then deep bend in that right knee so that left shin can thread behind your right ankle. Sitting back down, prepping for that twist. So twisting to the right. Unwind through center. We're gonna head back to a half pigeon. Just a couple rounds of breath here, so you might want to stay upright. So tuck your back right toes, lift that right knee off the mat. Maybe you press your hips forward just a little bit so you can thread this right foot through to the top, stepping your left toes to the mat, opening up warrior two, right foot in front. Flipping your right palm, straightening your right leg, leaning back, reverse triangle. Coming through center, finding your triangle pose. Cartwheeling this left hand down to the mat, pivoting on your right foot, finding a wide angled forward fold. If you've got an inversion in your practice, like a headstand, this could be a nice place to play around with that. You could also just sway your torso from side to side. If your allergies are acting up, it might feel nicer to stay in a halfway lift. Bring blocks underneath your hands. let's walk the hands so we frame the right foot, low runner's lunge at the top of the mat. Plant that left palm, right palm back to the sky, revolve low lunge. You could come onto the outer edges of the feet for horizon lunge. You could step back to a side plank or supported side plank. You could even come all the way around to a wild thing. Let's all come through center, taking a vinyasa or just pressing back to a downward facing dog. Let's head to the left side. So left heel up and back. Step that left foot through, loading it so you can bring that right knee into your chest as you rise up. Finding a twist, left hand in front, right hand in back. Bringing the chest back through center, maybe the hands into heart space, bending into that left knee, threading the right shin behind the left ankle, sitting down, and then twisting to the left once you settle in. Coming through center with the torso, swinging that left leg around, finding your half pigeon. Tucking the left toes, lifting the left knee, threading the left foot through to the top of the mat. Right foot goes back, low runner's lunge, opening up into a warrior two. Left foot in front. Straightening the left knee, leaning back, reverse triangle. Coming through center, triangle pose. So the fun thing about this flow is we're practicing getting up and down from the ground, which is a skill we sometimes lose as we age. So it's nice to practice that. Right hand swims down to the mat, coming back to that wide leg forward fold. Inhale lifts you halfway. Exhale to refold, walking those hands to frame your left foot. Right hand plants left palm to the sky, revolve, slow lunge. Either stay here, come into a side plank or supported side plank, or take it all the way around, wild thing. Coming through center, high plank or supported plank, vinyasa, or straight to downward facing dog. From your downward facing dog, right heel up and back. Step through, loading that right foot, left knee into your chest. One leg mountain, opening up into a twisting balance. Bend in the right knee, left shin threads behind right ankle so you can sit down. Taking a twist to the right. Chest comes through center, right leg goes back, half pigeon. Tucking the right toes, lifting the right knee, threading the right foot through, coming to your runner's lunge. This time, crawl that right hand a little bit further forward of the right shoulder. Open up toward the left side of your mat, half moon. Maybe you float that right hand, whoops, to your heart. Floating back with control, warrior two. reversing your warrior when you land. Cartwheeling the hands down, vinyasa, or straight to downward facing dog. Left heel up and back. Left foot steps, loads, right knee into your chest, opening up into your balancing twist. Bending the left knee so that right shin can come behind the left ankle, sitting down, settling into your twist to the left. Coming through center with the torso, swinging the left leg around, finding your half pigeon. Tucking the left toes, lifting the left knee, threading that left foot through, finding your low runner's lunge. Then left hand crawls forward, open up, fly forward into your half moon. Maybe floating that bottom hand. Then stepping back, warrior two, reversing your warrior when you land. Cartwheeling the hands down, vinyasa or straight to downward facing dog. From your downward facing dog, let's bring the knees to the mat, finding a child's pose for 5 rounds of breath. You could also hang out in a hero's pose, closing the eyes, reconnecting to the breath. As you're ready, maybe you blink your eyes open. We're going to stretch for a little bit before Shavasana. So come into a tabletop pose. You're going to cross your right thigh over your left, splaying your feet out to the outer edges of the mat, walking your hands back so your hips can come down. You're in a cow face pose. I'm going to scooch around. So you can kind of reorganize your legs. If having your legs stacked like this is not comfortable, you can always straighten that bottom leg. So you're getting a 2-for-1 hip and hamstring stretch in this scenario. If you want, you can keep both knees bent though. Anything you want with the arms. So sometimes it feels nice just to hold the toes, maybe shimmy the shoulders. Or you could take eagle arms here, wrapping the left arm underneath the right, lifting those elbows away from you. You could take cow-faced arms, bringing the right arm overhead, reaching around, trying to grab the left fingers. Or you could reach for opposite shoulder blades. About 8 more rounds of breath here. So to take this back around to the left side, we're going to turn in a big circle on our mat. So walk your hands to the left, keep turning to the left as you straighten the legs, coming to what is now the back of your mat. Walk your hands to the left, to the left, to the left. Once you're back, that opposite leg should be on top. And then just settle in any way here for about 10 rounds of breath. As you're ready, let's unwind the legs, giving the hips a little bit of a break. Feet out in front of you, legs nice and long again. Maybe you like to scooch around, letting the sit bones really connect to the mat. Arms reach overhead, then forward fold. I know everyone always wants to touch their toes, but really concentrate on a nice long spine. You can keep a good bend in the knees. This is another spot where you could bring your block in between your legs, letting your head rest on the top of the block. You could also bring the blocks to the outer edges of the legs, reaching out in front of you. Rise up, bringing the hands on either side of the hips, pressing into the mat, opening the chest up toward the ceiling, lifting the gaze, staff pose. Release. Then soles of the feet come together, knees go out wide for Baddha Konasana, or bound angle, not bound ankle like I used to think it was. You can either stay upright here, you can fold over your legs. Remember, the closer those heels are to your inner thighs, the more intense the stretch will be. So sometimes scooching the feet a little bit further away from the inner part of the legs makes this a little bit more comfortable. Rising up, let's come down onto our backs. Soles of the feet onto the mat, knees shine up toward the ceiling. See if you can allow that sacrum or low back to connect to the mat. Then maybe you lift the low back by tilting the pelvis, just feeling a nice little stretch. Then think about pressing the sacrum or low back into the mat. And then tilt the pelvis, let the low back come away. Low back presses into the mat again, arms alongside the body. Let's lift the hips coming into a low bridge. Really think about engaging both the core and the glutes here, and thinking about knitting those top ribs in together. Slowly lowering the hips. Let's lift the right leg long overhead, letting the right ankle come on top of the left thigh. So you're in a reclined figure four. Let this figure four shape fall over to the left, taking the gaze to the right, feeling free to take up a lot of space with the arms. Sometimes it feels nice to gently guide that right thigh toward the front of the mat with the left hand. Slowly unwind. Bring the legs back through center, and then you're gonna let them fall over to the right, taking the counter stretch. If it does not feel good to have that right ankle on top of your left thigh, just hop it off. If you've been using Ujjayi breath, now might be a nice time to release that, returning to circular inhales through the nose, exhales through the lips. Coming back through center with the figure 4 shape, right foot to the mat, left leg long overhead, left ankle on top of right thigh. Let's let it fall over to the right first. So figure 4 shape over to the right, maybe the gaze to the left. Feeling free to let that left arm fall open. Then unwind, bringing that figure 4 shape through center, and then letting it fall over to the left for the counter stretch, taking up space with the arms. Coming back through center with your figure 4 shape. Heel toe your feet out as wide as your mat, letting the knees fall in toward one another, reaching for opposite shoulder blades for constructive rest, maybe closing the eyes or softening the gaze. Unwind this, hugging the knees into the chest, draping the arms over the shins, maybe reaching your forehead towards your knees. Squeeze, 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 squeeze. Then let all that effort go, taking up a lot of space with your arms and legs, settling into your Shavasana. So if you have blocks, sometimes it feels nice to bring those blocks underneath your thighs for support. You can also bring a block underneath your head or your shoulder blades. Feeling very free to take up as much or as little space with your body as you'd like. Maybe you wiggle the fingers and the toes, rock the head from side to side. Let's release the breath through the lips with a deep exhale, followed by welcoming a deep inhale through the nose, a little pause at the top. Then intentional exhale through the lips into your Shavasana. Rest. You are very welcome to continue to rest here. But if you'd like to or need to wrap up your practice for this morning, start to bring some gentle awareness back into your body. Maybe welcoming some micro movements by wiggling the fingers and the toes. Maybe you rock your head from side to side. And maybe you perform a short little body scan, starting at the toes and going through the crown of the head, noticing and soaking up any pleasant feelings, feelings of space, peace, or relaxation that are present in your body right now. Knowing these feelings are within you at all times, you don't need to be on your mat to experience them. You could roll to your right or left side, allowing the earth to hold you one final time this practice. Meeting in an easy seat, maybe those eyes are closed or the gaze is soft, sitting up nice and tall. Rolling the shoulders up, down, back, away from the ears. And letting the backs of the hands come to the tops of the thighs, palms open. Emptying out with a deep exhale. Using an inhale to float the hands away from the thighs. Exhale, hands fall back into your lap. A little bit deeper, inhale, hands lift a little bit higher this time. Exhale, lets them come back down. Deepest inhale yet, floats the hands up overhead so the palms touch. And then an exhale brings your hands into heart space with a gentle bow of the head and gratitude for this practice that gives us space to reflect. The light in me sees and honors the light in you. Thank you so much for practicing with me. I hope the rest of your weekend is wonderful, and stay tuned for our next live flow. For the latest, you can follow me at Stretch with Sandy on Instagram. See you next time.